It's the day you've all been waiting for and also probably dreading because of what it means for the Jets season. Dane Brugler is here. We are talking NFL draft, evaluating the quarterbacks, who's the best fit for the Jets. What if they don't take a quarterback and go a different direction? Plenty to talk about with Dane. I'm Tim McMaster along with Zach Rosenblatt. Thanks for checking us out on the Flight Plan podcast. Please like the show wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome to the baggage handlers as well. Give us those 5-star reviews. Before we get to Dane, Zach, how you doing?
I'm good. You know, I think people ask us to bring on Dane earlier and earlier every year, it seems like, because the Jets just keep getting worse. And so I think we'll just spend this entire podcast asking him about Brady Cook is what I decided we should do. Yeah.
Past evaluations of Brady Cook. Dane, does this, well, I don't want to say the calm before the storm because I think you're pretty much grinding 12 months a year. But like this time when we're getting into bowl season, we're not like at the Senior Bowl just yet. I mean, are you at least able to like breathe a little bit before we hit like the real build up to the draft?
Honestly, this is probably my favorite time in the calendar because like once we get past Christmas, then it's full anxiety because it feels like the draft tomorrow and I'm not ready. And, it's that dream where you forgot to do your homework Sunday night. And so like that really is coming. But right now there's still a lot of tape that I need to watch from the end of the season. And so there's still a lot that catching up on, want to get these guys in the right buckets, the right neighborhood. And then as we get closer to the draft, it's kind of fine tuning and, really stacking these guys where they should be. But yeah, it's an interesting class. It's one that I know, I was in New York a month ago and my Uber driver was a Jets fan and he recognized the name. And so he was drilling me the entire time on this and that. And I mean, he was convinced that the Jets are cursed when it comes to drafting quarterbacks. And I know he's not the only Jets fan to feel that way. So we'll see if at some point, either this year or next year, we're going to test that theory, right? They're going to draft a quarterback this year or next year. And it's just a matter of when they decide to do it. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how they want to attack that.
And we are going to get to the quarterbacks in this year's draft and probably a little bit into next year as well. But first, your mock came out, I think, beginning of last week. And you had the Jets staying put because you do take into account potential trades. You had them staying put at 7 and going with Jordan Tyson and then taking a corner at 23. Just interested in the thought process there and in your mind, the decision that the Jets will wait a year before making that big plunge into the quarterback market.
Yeah, and obviously the Jets have as much ammo, if not more, than any other team if they wanted to make a move for one of these quarterbacks. But it's an interesting year for quarterbacks because first of all, we don't know quarterbacks are going to be in this class. I think we feel pretty good. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback, will declare and will be in this class. He is the favorite to be the first pick. But what does Dante Moore do at Oregon? A quarterback who is 20 years old and realistically he could really use another year in college. He has, I think right now he's at 18 or 17 career starts. And the track record of quarterbacks with under 25 career starts in college, it's not good. And so a chance to go back to school, especially in this day and age with NIL and, make $4 million and, get better. So next year you're poised to also be a top 5 pick, but then be a better long-term quarterback because you have that development under your belt. But there's something to be said about striking while the iron's hot as well. And so I think Dante Moore's got a big decision coming up, and he has more games to be played. They have basically a bye week in the first week of the playoffs. No offense, James Madison, but Oregon should steamroll, and then it'll be interesting against Texas Tech, who has a really good defense, and so that'll be a good test for Dante Moore. But like I said, the Jets, and the other thing we just don't know right now is the draft order. If the number 1 pick ends up being the Raiders, the Browns, then it really might not matter how much ammo the Jets have. Whoever is at 1 is going to stick and pick. That's what happened last year. There were plenty of teams that were looking to go up to number 1 and get Cam Ward because they largely saw it as a 1 quarterback draft. The Titans, they felt like they found their quarterback and they just rebuffed any offer. And so if the Titans, the Giants finish with that number 1 pick, Then all of a sudden, we're going to have more of a discussion about, okay, who's going to make that move to go up and get the quarterback. In this scenario, in the mock, I had them staying put at 7. Just, again, mock drafts at this point, it's less about accuracy, more about scenarios. We want to lay out, all right, what are realistic ways this draft could play out? And I think Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State, is definitely a name that Jets fans should be familiar with, because he is arguably the top receiver in the draft, someone that could come in and really take some heat off Garrett Wilson and make that offense more explosive, regardless about who the quarterback is.
I also feel like those are good measuring sticks for like the time of the year too, that you can like go back to and be like, this is what we thought then. And that's why people over analyze mock drafts sometimes, obviously, but I like them as like measuring sticks. I'm curious, what, in line with what you said, they have all these assets now if they want to trade up, if they can. I'm curious when the Jets made those trades, like what was going through your head as a draft guy? Like they obviously added like crazy capital. The Colts pick looks even better now, obviously. But I'm curious, like in the moment, like in your head, you're like, okay, they're doing this to get a QB, or they're just building for the future. Like how did you view it?
Yeah, I mean, they're taking it down to the studs almost. And it's we can debate all day about what's the right formula to rebuild a team. But I can't fault them for going the direction they did. It's painful to let a Quinnen Williams walk out the door, a Sauce Gardner. Like that's not an easy decision to make. It's less about, like, I don't think it's, this GM didn't draft those guys. I mean, they're good players. You don't want those guys to not be part of your program anymore. But at the same time, you're looking at the 2027 roster, the 2028 roster. You're forecasting what those are going to look like, and in order to get those rosters where you want them to be, so you are competing. You're becoming the next Lions. You're becoming the next team that really turned things around. You need the draft capital, so you can hit on the picks and then really turn things around. So it's easier said than done. It takes a lot more than just trading good players away is the easy part of this whole thing. That's the Browns have done that a lot of times where they had multiple first round picks because they traded away, traded back, but it doesn't mean anything if you miss on them. And so we can debate all day about what should they draft a quarterback this year? Get that clock running just to get the quarterback into the room. We could debate about should they build up the roster first and then wait to take the quarterback next year. It really doesn't matter. All that matters is the only strategy that should be at the forefront of the minds of these decision makers in the building. If that means drafting a quarterback this year, then so be it. I think they'll be hot and heavy about the quarterbacks in this class, just making sure that they know everything about them, whether or not it's the right decision to go after one of them, or if we should wait. Last year, it was not a great quarterback class, and we were saying, just wait till next year. And okay, here we are, and all of a sudden, it's not looking so hot. Arch Manning most likely going back to school, and he didn't look all that great up until late in the year. Guys like Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier, some of these seniors that we thought could be in the first round mix, they are not. We're no longer considering them top 50 type of players. So who knows what the 2027 quarterback class is going to look like. So I think that looking at this year's group, it's back to your original question. It's painful to let some of those guys go, but I think the Jets are in a position where I think a lot of GMs are envious about the opportunity this team has to moving forward to really get better.
All right, let's dig into these quarterbacks. We'll start with Mendoza. Just curious, obviously he's had likely a Heisman campaign this year, but last week, Big Ten championship, he goes up against an elite defense in Ohio State with a defensive coordinator with NFL roots and Matt Patricia. Just curious about your opinion of him going into that and what you learned about him from that game.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that Mendoza is not a come out of nowhere type of guy. Now, he wasn't like a 5-star or anything like that. Like his only offer come out of Miami, the Miami area in Columbus High School was Yale. And then Cal came in late and gave him an opportunity. But we knew, watching and studying him last year, we thought, okay, this is a guy who has a chance to be a first-round pick. My way too early mock draft back in April for this draft, Mendoza was in there. Coming into the year, my top 50, he was in the top 20. So he was already thought of as a first-round pick. But credit to him, because everything he has done this year for Indiana has put him in position to be that number 1 overall type of pick. And that's it's crazy to think about this Indiana program and the heights that credit to Kurt Cignetti, head coach, and everything they've done. The quarterback is a big piece of what they're doing, and it's an RPO heavy offense, which is perfect for Mendoza's skill set because he's so smart pre and post snap. He almost always makes the right decision. He plays on time consistently, and I think the most impressive part of what he does is just the poise. We talk about the moment being too big for some of these guys. It's never been too big for him. And I love that no matter what tape you mention, whether it's Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, I can give you 3-4 examples on every single tape of NFL level throw or an NFL level decision or a crunch time moment where the quarterback had to be the guy. He had to step up and make a big play, and he answered it every single time. And you set it up with the Ohio State game. We were, kind of secretly rooting for that Indiana-Ohio State matchup at the Big Ten championship game all year because the two didn't face in the regular season. And I really wanted to have that measuring stick, that data point for Mendoza going up against the number 1 overall defense and someone that has, four of the guys on that defense were in the top 20 of my mock draft, and the other guys are getting drafted as well. So a bunch of NFL dudes. And the first play of the game, it looks like Mendoza gets knocked out. And he takes that huge hit, and we're thinking, oh, great, that's a big bummer. But he comes back, 2 plays later and was nails the entire game. And they really, the run game's a big part of what that Indiana offense wants to be. They really strive for balance. But when they needed the quarterback to step up and make a throw, he did it numerous times. There's a 4th and 2 that he converted that was huge. That big, the post down to Becker, there was a 50-yard play. The slot fade to Surratt for the touchdown. And then with 2 minutes left in the game, third down.
Clincher,
Exactly, that go ball. So, again, every single tape I can point to and say, okay, Mendoza stepped up in the moment. And I think that poise, that confidence is that along with the intelligence pre and post snap, to me, that's what stands out the most with him, along with his accuracy. And so does he have the biggest arm? No, it's good enough, but it's not a Matthew Stafford type of arm. Size is fine. Mobility, he's not great, but he's good enough. So, it reminds me a lot of Jared Goff coming out, who was the number 1 pick 10 years ago. And I think he's that style of quarterback and someone who I think can operate an NFL offense from day one.
I was actually just going to ask you that. You already answered it because, it seems like Goff is the one that you hear the most, which I think Jets fans maybe are looking for like the next superstar, but I also the Jets would settle for like just a solid quarterback for a decade, which you'd get with like a Jared Goff type. So I am curious to like, how does he stack up in your mind against like the top guys of the last couple of years, like the Cam Wards, the Drake Mays, Jaden Daniels, like those guys? Like, how does he stack up prospect wise with these last couple of years?
I think he was. I haven't put final grades on these guys just yet, just because I want to see them throw in person at the combine. I want to talk to them in person. So no final grades yet, but I expect my final grade on Mendoza will be probably a little bit better than I had on Cam Ward last year. And Cam Ward was like my 15th overall player last year. I don't think anybody in this class comes close to the top 3 guys from 2 years ago. The Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. But so if Mendoza was in that class, he's probably quarterback 4. But when you look at those 3 guys, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, you understand like what those guys were as prospects. And I think to the overall point, I don't think the goal of drafting a quarterback should be, all right, we need to find the next Patrick Mahomes. We need to find the next Josh Allen. Like, it's not a realistic endeavor. The goal should be, can we find a guy we believe can become a top 12 quarterback in the league? That's all you need. If you can find a top 12 quarterback in the league, someone's going to help you win the division, and then you keep surrounding him with talent, you're going to get to the playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, it's just about winning one game and then doing it again and doing it again. And then you're in the Super. You have to find a top 12 quarterback. And I think that Mendoza certainly has the ability to get there. And so I think that's, instead of looking at him and saying, well, he's not Josh Allen. He's not I'm looking at him saying, hey, he could be a top 12 quarterback in the league. And that's exactly what we should be striving for.
All right, moving on to Dante Moore next. And I know you already talked a little bit about the youth, the lack of experience and all of that. So whether he comes out now or he goes back to Oregon next season, what are the main things that he does need to like focus in on and get better at to become that quarterback, whether he's doing it for an NFL team or for the Ducks?
I've been really impressed this year with Moore, and because the last time we saw Moore on the field was 2 years ago at UCLA, true freshman. It didn't go great. Transfers to Oregon last year, sat behind Dylan Gabriel, so we didn't get to see him last year. So we didn't know what to expect coming into this year. Obviously, Oregon, with the way that they rebuild in the transfer portal and the recruiting, the offensive line we knew was going to be good, the weapons were going to be good. The quarterback was an unknown variable, and I've been really impressed by everything they put on his plate and the way he's answered week in, week out. You go on the Penn State tape, the Iowa tape, the Indiana tape was probably his worst game of the year, and it really wasn't even that bad. I think in terms of ways he can get better, it's just obviously the experience part of it. He tends to predetermine a little too much, just about where to go with the football. And to be honest, that's a lot of college offenses where it's, pre-snap. If the safety's doing this, okay, boom, you're hitting, the out, or, it's all, a lot of it's predetermined. There are times where he'll take off quicker than he needs to. I want to see, can he get through that backside read? Can he stay put in the pocket, let some of those route combinations develop? And, a lot of things that you expect from a young player. His eyes are in the wrong place. Not being as decisive as you want, especially under pressure. So there are examples of that throughout, his tape, in the whole body of work. But like I said, I've been impressed with everything that they put on his tape or on his plate and how he's gotten better with each game. And because there are points where his receivers have been hurt, the offensive line has been up and down, and the quarterback has been the constant. And so I think from a physical standpoint, he's a very loose passer, very smooth in his setup, his operation, his release, very natural thrower of the football. He can change arm angles. He's very good in the screen game, but he can also work down the field. And I think he's a better passer on the move than I think we thought. He's very efficient using his legs. If there's space, he'll take advantage of scrambling or just buying time. So Dante Moore, if he's a stock, you're buying, because you feel like it's headed to big things. Again, 20 years old. And so if he did go to, say, a team like the Jets, what's the plan? It's kind of, because Sam Darnold was a third-year sophomore, when he was drafted. He had under 25 starts. And, you had McCown coming in as kind of that bridge. But it's a tough ask. And, there's just no substitute for experience. So the Dante Moore domino is a big one for this draft class. And so very eager to find out what he decides to do.
Well, I feel like in the same breath, but like, I feel like the inexperience is maybe a bigger concern is probably Ty Simpson, right? Because, he has I guess they have around the same experience games wise, but like he didn't help himself in that Georgia game, clearly. But I still feel like because of this quarterback class, if he were to come out, he'd probably be a first round pick and a team might talk themselves into him. So I'm curious where you see him as a prospect relative to Moore, and like the idea of him coming in and, whether it's you let him sit for a year with a bridge or whatever, kind of like you were just saying.
Yeah, Ty Simpson is tough because if you asked me this at Halloween, I would have said, okay, yeah, I think he's gonna be a top 10 pick the way he's playing. But the pre-Halloween tape and the post-Halloween tape is very different. Yeah. And it's just November was tough for Ty Simpson. And look, it wasn't just the quarterback. The offensive line was bad. There's no run game at Alabama. The receivers were very inconsistent, with maybe the exception of Jeremy Bernard. But the quarterback is part of that. He's at the center, and he did not make as many plays as he needed to. There's so much to like about him, the way he moves in the pocket, the way he can get through his reads really quickly. His dad's a 20-year head coach at the Division I level at the FCS. So he grew up on a practice field. He grew up in a quarterback room. And I think he's a little bit different than most. First, he turns 23 years old this month. He graduated from Alabama before he threw his first touchdown pass. So really just a unique situation. And I hope he goes back to school. I think what happened in November clearly showed that there's a lot he hasn't seen yet. And it's, you don't want to go to the NFL and see things for the first time and learn on the fly like that. It's not going to go great. It hit the SEC championship game was just his 13th career start. So he needs more time. And I don't know. We'll see. I think that, because he is going to be 23 years old, a lot of people are going to say, oh, he should go. I don't think age matters as much for quarterbacks. I mean, look, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, they were both 24 when they were drafted, top 12.
Tyler Shuck, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the 40th pick. I mean, teams, can you be a starter for us the next 10 years? That's what teams care about. They don't care if you're 22 or 24. So if I'm advising Ty Simpson, I'm going to say, okay, what are the Alabama coaches saying? Because they've got a 5-star redshirt freshman that, in today's NIL world, they have to figure out, get him on the field. Can we keep them both? How's that going to work? Is it going to be like a Carson Beck situation where maybe Ty Simpson has to look in the portal? And I think there'd be more than a few teams interested in bringing him in for his final year. So there's a lot of things that they need to figure out here. But first and foremost, they've got a game coming up here on the road in Norman against a really good Oklahoma defense. And so how does that, one game shouldn't decide or make any final decisions. But if he plays really well against that defense, I don't know, maybe that will help him, nudge him in a certain way. So Ty Simpson's a tough one. I do hope he goes back to school, but if he does declare, could he go in the first round? I think there are enough quarterback needy teams that will fall in love with the person and the player over the next 4 months.
You're on mute, Tim.
It's your fault, Zach. It's your fault. Simpson and Moore feel like, if you had to guess, they probably do come out. Arch Manning, obviously, everybody expects to probably go back. But if he did surprise us and decide to enter the draft, where do you see him kind of settling in?
If he declared he'd be a first-round pick, I mean, I think the biggest thing that fans have to realize, like, players and prospects, those two words, they're not synonyms. There's players and there's prospects. And as a player, Arch Manning is this, but as a prospect, he's this. And because as a scout, as a GM, you have to scout the player, but you have to scout the prospect. And what is he going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And it's a very difficult thing because not only are scouts, detectives and psychologists, but you have to be a fortune teller as well. You have to look into that crystal ball and say, all right, look at his trajectory and the traits and, the person that he is, the character, the football character. We feel like he's, going to skyrocket here. And so he would be a first round pick. Now, would he go number 1 overall? Would he go top 5, top 10? That is very much up for debate, but I have no doubt about it. If Arch Manning came out, he'd be a first round pick. But I think hopefully, and I think he will go back to school. Just because he knows he needs more experience, more development. And Texas is, I think, in a good spot where as long as, the left tackle goes back, I think, they'll get Wisner, the running back back. And then the receivers should be better next year. So I think that Texas offense should be in a good spot next year. But if he did surprise, there's no doubt someone would draft him in the first round. Probably pretty high.
I think another idea that's been floated about the Jets beyond like not skipping their QB, but like not using the 7th pick on it and either using like their late first or one of their multiple second round picks. What do you think about that idea? And are there prospects that you think are even like worth, taking a flyer on like that? I mean, it doesn't seem like there are any Jackson Dart level guys maybe, but curious what you think there.
We'll see who comes out. Among the seniors, I don't think so. I mean, like Garrett Nussmeier's probably going to be the first senior drafted, and I would guess he's going to go in the 3rd round. Among these underclassmen, like Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati, he's got a lot of fans throughout the league. But I think in this NIL world, I think someone's going to give him $5 million to go, play at Texas Tech or one of these other schools. So I think for the most part, if we're talking about that Jackson Dart range, I think we're talking about Ty Simpson. I think that Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, both be top 5 picks if they declare. And then Ty Simpson becomes a wild card, and that's the Jackson Dart, Will Levis, that kind of like maybe he goes first, but if he doesn't, he'll probably go somewhere early in the 2nd. Probably that type of quarterback. If it's not those, I'm not sure who else it would be. Like, I don't think John Mateer from Oklahoma is going to be that guy. there's a few guys I like Josh Hoover from TCU, Byron Brown, South Florida. Like there's a few guys that we like as quarterback prospects, but I don't think they're going to rise to the level of being a top 40 guy.
All right, if they decide not to go quarterback this year and decide to replenish the defense instead of going offense, there's these two guys that you have linebacker Arvell Reese, safety Caleb Downs. What do you make of those two guys?
Arvell Reese, I mean, Ohio State defense is by far my favorite just unit to watch. I mean, it's so much fun to see how they operate and how they work, the cohesion that they have, and obviously well coached, but then obviously the talent is just tremendous. Caleb Downs he's a pro playing in the college level. I hate when you're watching a broadcast and you hear him compared to Ed Reed. He's not that style of player. It's not that he's better or worse. It's just that he doesn't play that center field, deep post, like where he's, roaming the deep half of the field, coming away with these interceptions. He plays more closer to the line of scrimmage. But his superpower is how versatile he is. You want him to be the robber, he can do that. You want him to play in the nickel, he can do that. He can just do everything you want because he's so smart. He's such a sound tackler. He sees the chessboard really cleanly pre-snap, and so he understands what the offense is trying to do. He can key really quickly and then be in position to make the play. And so I think that Caleb Downs, him and Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, two positions that we don't see traditionally drafted very high, running back and safety, but they're probably the two of the three best players in this draft, full stop. And so how early are teams going to look at that and say, yeah, we don't feel great about drafting a safety top 10, but looking at overall options right here, and we look at the player that's going to make us better, not only talent upgrade, but the culture upgrade. I think Caleb Downs is going to be someone that is universally liked, and then someone's going to pull the trigger on him. And Arvell Reese, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that he was just kind of different. His ability to be on the edge and either rush the quarterback, be a spy, drop in space, play the run. He's so physical and violent for a 240-pound linebacker that he can be an edge rusher. He has no problem lining up on the edge and setting the edge, being physical, being violent. He can rush, he can drop. The closing burst is outstanding. So, I mean, to me, he's the best player in this draft. Now, where are you going to play him? Is he a true edge? Play him off the ball full time. I think there's debate for that. As a front seven, working downhill type of guy, he could be a true difference maker.
It's actually crazy how many first-round guys are on that Ohio State defense. It's got to be one of the most loaded group ever. And
they had 14 draft picks last year, so it's crazy. And I think the most underrated member of that defense is Caden McDonald in the middle, the nose tackle. Watching him on the Indiana tape was, oh my gosh, he consistently resetting the line of scrimmage, the power. You have to double him because if you leave him single blocked, he's going to win. And when you double him, he doesn't move. He creates those 10-car pileups. Indiana wanted to establish a run so badly in that game, and they didn't do it because of the nose tackle and obviously the talent around him. But it starts with 98, Caden McDonald in the middle, and that's why we don't see nose tackles drafted very high. Often, the Vita Veas of the world. McDonald is kind of in that group where I'll be pretty surprised if he's not a top 20 pick.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so we've taken up too much of your time, but before we left, I actually had something to thank you for. So back when The Beast came out, I was able to get some free slices of pizza at this great spot called Scars because they did like a whole Beast like giveaway thing, and that was all because of your work. So awesome. I was curious, like how cool was it when they did that? Like there's people coming to get their own copies, like they were doing this whole, like I'm sure when you started doing that way back when, you couldn't have envisioned it getting to the point where you're having like these big promotional things.
Oh no, and they didn't really tell me what they were going to do. They just said, "Hey, we got some big things planned," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And then someone sends me or maybe it was on Slack. Someone sent me a picture of the car and
it was crazy.
The giveaways they were doing, and I was like, "Oh, give me a heads up next time so I can maybe like fly out there and like be part of it," or But no, that's pretty cool. And I mean, obviously, I do what I do because it's just what I enjoy and my passion. But to see the way it's grown over the years has been just truly humbling. If I got you free pizza, then it's all been worth it. I know that.
Good pizza too. This isn't Domino's we're talking.
Yeah.
All right, Dane, thank you so
Thanks,
much. Enjoy the quote downtime here and through the holidays, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dane. He's the best.
All right, Dane Brugler checking in. We get him basically once a year. We usually have him come in at a differing time when it makes sense. This one made sense, I think, before these college football playoffs start, and we see these quarterbacks going at it. It just kind of gives you a little more information when you're watching those games, I think, too, which makes it more interesting to get there. All right, let's talk a little bit about this week, Zach, and this Jets team, and not
exciting
just
stuff.
the future. Yeah, we're not going to dig into the Jaguars game, but the quarterback situation is kind of I think it's what we wanted, right? We got Brady Cook. We got Adrian Martinez.
He's back.
Backing him up. He's back. What a world we live in. But just, what are your expectations for Brady Cook with a full week of practice? I'm actually
intrigued,
excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I would say my expectations in general are very low for this week because I tweeted this, but based on if the people who didn't practice yesterday don't play this week, the Jets starting lineup for offense would be Brady Cook at quarterback. It'll be Isaiah Davis at running back. Breece Hall was out with knee soreness. Wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver John Mechie, wide receiver Isaiah Williams. None of those three guys were on the team when the season started. Tight end Jeremy Ruckert and the regular offensive line. But this is the territory of some of those bad Jets years where you look at where they have the graphics of the lineups and you're like, oh man. So that's where we're at right now. But Brady Cook, I think I was mildly impressed with the way he got better over the course of that game. I will say this is not an ideal game, especially when you have receivers who don't seem to want to catch the ball. The Jaguars are very opportunistic in terms of forcing turnovers. And now they're probably salivating over the possibility of going against an undrafted rookie or maybe Justin Fields, but I don't get the impression he's going to be. Just to give a little behind the scenes story about Justin Fields from yesterday, a few of us were waiting over by his locker to talk to him. He walked through the locker room, was kind of grabbed by PR, brought into the back. All of a sudden he's chilling there for a while. And then we see a staff member slyly try to bring it to him in the hallway. So he snuck away from us without ever talking to us this time. They might not want him to talk after he admitted that he didn't want to be the Wildcat quarterback because he was injury averse. And then he since has shown up on the injury report with knee soreness and he didn't practice yesterday. And so I can't imagine he's going to be the quarterback this week. I don't know if that's by his choice or the team's, or if he actually is feeling his knee is injured, or I'm not accusing him of making it up, but these are kind of things you have to think about around this team sometimes. So Justin Fields, I would be surprised if he starts another game for this team. So we're going to see some Brady Cook, and the ceiling for him is proving that he can be a backup quarterback option, whether it's number 2 or number 3 next year. He has the ability to play his way onto the future of this team. Adrian Martinez is a guy that this fan base actually kind of likes quite a bit from the preseason. So I'm curious to see if we'll see, knowing how things go with the Jets, it wouldn't be shocking if we had Adrian Martinez snaps at some point as well. So, and just adding to the list of quarterbacks that have played for the Jets. If Brady Cook starts, I forget what the number is, but they've reached, I think the number of quarterbacks that have thrown passes in games since they last made the playoffs is at 24 or something like that. So we're about to hit, if Adrian Martinez plays, it'd be at 25. And, it doesn't seem to be getting better in terms of the players they're putting out there, I'd say.
Let's hope Adrian Martinez doesn't play, though. Let's stick to Brady Cook. Let's get him through this.
I will say Adrian Martinez got shuffled through the Kyle Shanahan quarterbacking school for the first half of this, for the last 12 weeks of the season. So, maybe he comes back and he's the next Sam Darnold. Who knows?
It's always good to dream. All right, let's do picks to wrap things up. Here we are. Top of the board, no change, although it was a tie, so I guess there is a change. Rishi Ryan, I think, was alone in front. He slipped up a little bit, just 4 out of 10. So Sisyphus Jets moves into the tie, 158. And Mark A. Checky just won back. And where are you now? Zach's into 7th place.
7th place, not bad. Maybe I know what I'm talking about. Maybe not.
You
I
had
don't know.
back-to-back 14s. That was huge. And I noticed that, so I missed a week, which hurt obviously, but I'm still in 21st, and my percentage is 54.2, which is better than yours, Zach. Better winning percentage.
So you're saying, but we don't know how you would have done that week, so I think that's fair. Not accurate.
Fair. All right, let's take a look at this week's games. There's some good ones on here. This is probably the most confident I've felt about picks throughout the season. Usually I'm like, I have 4 I feel okay about. I'm just guessing at like the other 6. I actually felt pretty good about these. I have like Tampa Bay. I feel like, I don't know, they're a mess, rights the ship. Cincinnati, their season's over, but Buffalo's a mess. There's a lot of messes here. Let's start with the Jets, though.
Yeah, let's start with
taking the Jets to not win, but 11.5 is a lot of points. I think they keep it close. That's assuming some of those injured guys you mentioned do end up on the field.
Yeah, I don't think the line's changed. 'Cause I think it was at 11.5 when I did my picks yesterday. So I'm going to say Jets lose by more than that, honestly, especially because while I am intrigued by Brady Cook, I just don't see it going well against a Jaguars team that has something to play for. They're trying to win the division. The Texans are coming up right behind them. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend anybody going to this game. Like I do think the weather's going to be nice in Jacksonville. It's going to be like 60s, which I'm looking forward to. My wife's coming out. I think we're going to go to St. Augustine for the day on Saturday. Try to make a fun trip out of it. And then I go to New Orleans next week, which is one of the best road cities in the NFL, though it's not cheap to get there. But yeah, I see a blowout. I see them getting their asses kicked. But I will say, every time I predict the Jets to win is when they get killed. And a lot of times when I predict them getting killed is when they play pretty well. So take that for what it's worth.
Buffalo and New England's interesting. The Bills favored on the road.
That's a big one.
Obviously, the Patriots won in Buffalo. I think the Bills do get some revenge there. This Patriots run just seems like it has to.
Well, I was going to say, this probably, like, if the Patriots win this, then they're going to win the division. And if they lose it, then the Bills are pretty interesting. And then I wonder what they do with the Jets. The Week 18 games the times aren't out yet. If that game matters, like, I'm curious. I don't think they would flex it to like Sunday night or anything, but
they can't flex Brady Cook.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the Bills game will matter though, so I wonder if they do like a 4 p.m. where you line it up with the Patriots or something, or like I don't think they put it on Saturday, but something to think about, and not ideal for my travel planning, but nobody cares about that. And I am looking forward to going to Bar-Bill. I am not looking forward to the weather and I'm curious if any Jets fans are going to that trip. I can't imagine many.
Can't imagine. All right, anything? One more I'll point out, just from a tankathon standpoint, is the Redskins visiting the Giants.
The Commanders. You just call them the Redskins.
Jets. Oh my God. I'm sorry. Sorry to everyone.
Wow.
We'll edit the tape. Every once in a while, just slips back in. The Commanders visiting the Giants.
Yeah, that's a big one for the
game
draft.
For the Jets. I mean, the Commanders 1 spot ahead of the Jets. So, and I would hope. I mean, the Giants are favored, but obviously a decent chance that the Commanders can win that game, and then the Jets at least move up 1 spot to 6.
Also, the Colts games Jets fans are going to have their eyes on right now. So we're going to have 44-year-old Phillip Rivers possibly playing. They're 13.5-point underdogs against Seattle. The Colts are probably. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts lost out, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
we should point out. We should actually point out all the tankathon teams when we do these. So the Saints. The Saints are only 2.5 underdogs against the Panthers, and they're playing pretty. Like Tyler Shuck looks pretty good, honestly. Like I've been really impressed with him. The Browns, 7.5 underdogs
are at the Bears.
Against the Bears. They're not going to win it, but like the Bears are a weird team where they keep these games close. So, and the Browns do have a good defense. Vegas. I mean, you never know with this Eagles team. Like the Eagles team is a mess. Like if they lost to the Raiders, like all hell would break loose
at home.
But you also you need the Raiders to win games, because if they get the first pick, the Jets aren't getting Mendoza. Like that's just a fact. It's like that. Dane kind of touched on this. The Jets need a non-quarterback needy team to get number 1 in a year where it might be a 1 quarterback draft if Dante Moore
which is where we are right now, because the Giants are currently at 1.
Yeah, like you want the Giants or who's the other one? Oh, the Titans. You want one of those 2 teams to get number 1 or number.
But
number
the
1
Giants are not going to trade. Would the Giants?
I think
trade
they would.
Number 1 to the Jets. You think they would do that?
I think they would for the right. I mean, if they're getting multiple first.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Shane is going to be GMing for his job. I think it does matter where the Jets fall in the order too for like a trade up. Like
that's true.
If the Jets are coming up from 7, 7 is different than 4. So it's going to be these last 4 games. I do think the Jets at best are going to go 1-3, and I don't think the Saints game is a lock. So if you finish the season with 3 wins, you're going to be in the top 3 or 4. Then you're in really good shape. Even if you don't wind up getting a quarterback, you could probably get Arvell Reese right there. So, which, by the way, I think Arvell Reese, if you're not getting a quarterback, he's the most intriguing guy to me in this draft for the Jets because, I mean, they need playmakers in a really bad way. That guy can play edge, linebacker. You can move him up, move him all over the place. Like, he's just, like, so perfect for what Aaron Glenn wants to do. Caleb Downs is also intriguing. I can't imagine taking a safety in the top 5, but, yeah, Arvell Reese. That's why I wanted to ask Dane about that because I'm fascinated by him as a Jets target.
Well, I mean, the fact that he can line up as an edge. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to think that they'd be better off leaving this draft with him and not one of the quarterbacks, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. And keeping those first rounders, like keeping all those picks, keeping number 23, and then what do you get there?
Yeah.
Like, do you get Ty Simpson at 23 and Arvell Reese at 4?
I mean, if you like a quarterback enough in this draft, you probably just take him with your first pick and then you figure the rest out. But if you're like,
you can't take Ty Simpson at 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But my point is, like, if you like, okay, we think Ty Simpson's the guy, like you just do it and deal with the criticism. But also, like, if you're like, okay, we like Ty Simpson, but we like Arvell Reese a lot more. Let's see if Ty Simpson falls outside of the top 10. Like, then do we talk about trading up to get him also? Like, it's the Giants scenario. Like, they wanted to take Abdul Carter. I think Dable would have taken Dart at number 3 or whatever it was, or 2. I can't remember where they had. But as the draft went on and Jackson Dart was still available, they saw an opportunity to trade up and get that guy. So I could see something similar playing out. Ty Simpson, I mean, Dane expressed all the concerns. I have the same ones. The Jets are not a scenario where you can drop a guy in who's very inexperienced like that in and feel confident. But if you're getting him in the 20s or the late teens instead of top 10, then you could be a little more low key with you. You don't feel as rushed to throw him into the starting lineup.
I was going to say there's no if he goes in the 20s and he's your second pick of the draft, the pressure to play him as a rookie does kind of come off. And
yeah, I mean, and then you could even do what the Giants did. Like, not to say the Giants are like a model organization, but like maybe you bring back Tyrod and like because they brought Jameis and Russell Wilson, so you had 2 options to bridge. And Jameis wound up being a good fill-in backup. So you maybe bring back Tyrod and you sign, I don't know, Mariota or trade for Tanner McKee, something like that. Like, yeah, Phillip Rivers. Bring back Zach Wilson. Like one of these exciting options.
Wow. Bring back Zach Wilson. That was something. All right. That's going to do it for us. It'll be an interesting game on Sunday. Brady Cook time. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll keep as we go the rest of the way. I think we'll do if we're not having a guest on to talk draft, we're at least going to talk ourselves about this. And I feel like we should start, Zach, just doing a quarterback check-in every week where we just like based on the college football playoff games, like how did Mendoza play, how did Moore play, how did Simpson play in these games as we go forward. So we'll be doing that. Thanks to everybody for checking us out, whether you're checking out the audio or the Baggage Handlers here on YouTube. We'll talk to everybody soon.